Yes, so I'm also recording the meeting as you can see here, so they can also finding on our website. At the end, there will be also a short list of next events from BlueCallom. And so that you know what is not there yet, because we're going to publish today, is a business innovation with AI. So this will be an introduction to another agentic AI solution, will be BlueCallom Disrupt. If you don't have question at the moment, well, I think we can start and continue with the webinar.
All right, super. Thank you very much, Stefania, and yeah, welcome everybody. Today is in a way a big day because it's the third enterprise solution that we are actually introducing, and like we stated, end of last year, we're trying to bring one new enterprise solution a month, which is theoretically for people who have been in this industry an impossible thing. Like, come on, this either it's not the enterprise or you can't do it in a month. But we're demonstrating basically ourselves that timeline for anything tech has fundamentally changed. I mean, this enormous speed that we can, so to speak, produce is possible. And if I say we, then I mean not just we at BlueCallom. I mean the whole industry. Things go extremely fast, and the reason for that is AI itself. I mean, it's not only a tool that has some smarts in it that we can use, and that's kind of fun and interesting, but it amplifies everything we do in a kind of in an industrialized world. This is not just tech. This is biology. This is medicine. This is organizational structures and so forth and so forth, because it helps us to amplify things that we want to do in a way that was just unimaginable, I would say, a couple of years ago. And even if we had early thinkers like Douglas Engelbart, who envisioned AI to be this extremely fast, extremely intelligent system and will help us think, it wasn't clear what the idea actually was. But today, I think we can show it. And so I would like to start with a BlueCallom horizon, basically give you a perspective on what our horizon is for the company, and also for basically the customers and partners and our ecosystem. So we're providing enterprise grade solutions and the platform the solutions run on. And it's kind of interesting to understand these two different entities, or why we put it into two, almost different columns. To run enterprise solutions, it's necessary to understand an enterprise in itself. Organizations with hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of employees. And this is already the first big step that we had undertaken already last year, to make sure that AI solutions can run with multiple people. As you probably know, I mean, if you have a prompt, then the prompt is something you put in and you get the output. That's a single transaction between you and the AI system. There is no other people involved, like, oh, can I chime in? And I mean, there's a possibility on the chat side, but not in the process side yet. The next step, the agents, same thing. I mean, the agent is typically for one person, helping you do entire, process steps. You write an email, then you get the response, and depending on the response, something else is happening. And so this is typically still a process between the AI and you. But when we look into real enterprise solutions, then this is not only you, this is the whole company. Companies with people who are interacting with AI on the same process, maybe even on the same time. And when you tried it out once, that you can run one one agent or even one prompt after the other extremely fast when you type in fast enough, they run actually parallel. And so there is in the technology, there's this term of multi-threaded systems, meaning you can do lots of things in parallel. But this has never come really true unless you have a very specific part of the operating system does multi-threaded parallel processing. But AI is a parallel process oriented system. I mean, when you think about there are close to, I don't know, close to hundreds of millions, probably close to 1 billion people working with chatbots, AI-driven chatbots like ChatGPT. I mean, they do this at the same time, and this is all processed, and nobody has the content of the other. And to network this was one of the greater challenges. That's what we do. Then from a product point of view, I mean, we are looking into strategic results, meaning these are mission critical applications in the future. And people who know me, they know that I'm somebody who tries to pull the future forward, and that's what we do. So we're driving these models, and we're driving measurable productivity, and we're driving basically results that are significant for the company. And with that, we're elevating people to a degree that was also unimaginable before. And I use this unimaginable before because I know from so many discussions with people using it, with managers, with executives, with board members, that it's very hard to comprehend where is this going. And this is a question which I get almost every day. So tell me, I mean, yeah, I see what you're doing. So where is this going? And I mean, my whole life I had kind of a vision horizon of about 5 to 10 years. I predicted things that happened, pretty plus minus 1 or 2 or 3 years in that order. But in this space, it's almost now impossible to do that. I mean, we're looking into the next 2 to 3 years, this is okay. But into 5 to 10 years, this is already extremely difficult, even for the most visionary people. And so to give you a bigger picture, that is something that I'm seeing in the next years, even beyond the 2 to 3 years. And this is what I mentioned before. Douglas Engelbart actually predicted in 1962, and so we're basically stepping on shoulders of giants, like we used to say in the valley. So we're seeing this, and we're embracing this human intelligence augmentation as much and as good as we can. Because human intelligence augmentation does not mean that our intelligence gets better, but it means that we have tools and instruments that help us use it better. So muscle augmentation is sort of the big thing before us in the Industrial Revolution. I mean, we built machines for everything. Machines where we couldn't carry, we couldn't lift, we couldn't fly, we couldn't, I mean, all these things. And so we built machines to overcome our physical limitations. Human intelligence augmentation is to overcome our intellectual limitations. And that doesn't mean that these AI systems take over and are, we're just stupid little worms. Not at all. I mean, our brain, and I've been, when we were in the innovation space, I studied neuroscience for 3 years, and our brain is so enormously powerful where we don't understand, I think, about 80% of the capacity of our brain. So people in the early days said, 10%, only 10% of our brain is used. Now, this was not true. We use the brain in its full capacity. However, we're not aware of most of the things the brain can do, even though it does it. I'll give you an example. It was a well-known case that if a child of a mother all of a sudden runs loose and tries to cross the street, the mother is there before the car can hit the child in many, many cases, over and over and over, analyzed, tested. We don't understand why this is happening. Well, there's one scientist who said, well, maybe our brain is actually a quantum physics engine. So it's working so fast and the intuition is so fast, and we know this from so many cases, that we cannot even measure it. And so if that's the case, then we see already a whole new future for us and what our brain can do. So this is the bigger picture. And what we physically want to do as a company, we want to get as close as possible to that augmentation state where we can do things with the machine together that was impossible before, very much like flying. It wasn't, we couldn't fly, but today we not only fly from A to B, we can even fly outside our space. I mean, that's something, right? So, and with that said, I want to start with where we are today. And also, this is actually in retrospect. I mean, we ourselves almost don't notice, but little over a year ago, I mean, it was same month, March, we introduced our first prompt engineering system. This was in Cannes at the AI. So this was all about prompts, and today prompts is, yeah, everybody uses prompts more or less, some better than the others. But today we're actually introducing multi-agent solutions, and all of this happened in 1 year. And not only that, we built those solutions, we built the instruments, the development tools to create those solutions that led to being able to have business partners, which we already also have, to build their own solutions. So, and when we talk about solutions, I'd like to give sort of a quick intro, sort of what we have already, what's coming very soon, and how this plays a role in this entire enterprise AI solutions game. So the first product we actually brought to market and introduced was in the beginning of the year was Bank Zero. That was initially a project that we developed for a bank, and we realized that this is a universal banking problem, is to understand and optimize their CIR. That's a term I didn't even know before. So this is the cost income ratio. And this is a parameter like a benchmark where banks measure each other. Is the CIR low? It's good. Is it high? It's bad. So, but in order to find out what to do to get it down, you have to understand the entire operation of a bank. I mean, including everything that flows in, that flows out, and how it's done. And sometimes it's done in very different ways. And it's almost too complicated for humans to comprehend. So that particular bank, we had a meeting, sort of our final meeting back then was last year, where the entire C-level and the entire board was together, and we were presenting what AI can do. The product was not there yet, but what we can do, and it was a stunning result. Even for us, we didn't think that this is going that far. So this was the first product. The second, which was initially the first product, but we redesigned it to an autonomous innovation system, is BlueCallom Disrupt. So it's a full end-to-end innovation system. And when people think of innovation systems, they think of, creativity machines or, things that can help with brainstorming or any of this. No, I mean, brainstorming and the creation of the innovation is only a fraction of the entire process. So we start before even ideation starts. And this is what we call the innovation discovery process. Then there comes the ideation process, then there comes the validation, then there comes the financing, then there comes the blueprints, then there comes the making of the MVP, then there was the introduction of the MVP, and then there's the go-to-market strategy, and all this is actually innovation. And the biggest failure in our industry around the world is that we're all thinking on, oh, there's this great thing now. Yeah, we made it. And boom, nothing happens. I mean, the saddest of all cases that I know is actually the Mercedes of the cars, Mercedes itself. They built a car called EQS, which was probably the most innovative car. But what these guys did, they were so focused on Tesla that all they did is, we have an electric car and it actually has a wider reach and even a bigger display. I mean, it was competing with a competition on their turf, saying, we do that, but a little bit better. And nobody knew all the underpinnings of that car. So that was a sad thing. And out of these two, basically came a third product, and this is what we're introducing today, is BlueCallom Transform. Many people who said, yeah, innovation is nice, we should have it, and they looked at it and they liked it, but then they didn't get the budget and basically the allowance to do internal innovation. No, 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 no. We need to fix all our old problems. And I had discussions with about 10 board members from, they have typically here, the board members have 1 or 2 or 3, or sometimes even more accounts. So we're touching a lot of enterprises here in Switzerland and also in Germany. And the tonality was, wow, this is really great, but we need to fix our problems first. There's so many. I mean, this entire enterprise, whatever the name was, is stuck in, I mean, little things. We acquired so many companies, and they were integrated, but we still have different systems and so on and so forth. We need to fix them. And one CEO actually said, I mean, with your technology and your understanding of AI, can't you build something that helps us, fix all these little problems? It's not the big ones. And to give you a perspective, so this was a pharmaceutical company. And we had this discussion, the very same discussion. Yeah, innovation is nice, but we need to fix our problems. And they said, the logistics is about 30 years old. We have countless companies acquired over these 30 years. And we got to a point that all the big problems that we have fixed. But there are a million of small problems, too tiny to call a consulting company come in and fix all of them. And we still said we need to do that. So they wanted to hire one of these companies and said, okay, we can do this. I mean, you have countless operations around the world, and we need to have an army of people to do that. The price ticket was over $1 billion. And the CEO was a little bit surprised in 2 ways. One, yeah, it's the biggest number probably of a single deal. But the problem was, he asked the question, what is in 12 months after your job is done? And there was no answer. They said, well, it's hard to tell because the world is changing so fast. That means what? I mean, we don't even start. And that was the result. We don't even start because it doesn't make sense that in 12 months they come back and say it's another billion. And so you basically have a subscription for $1 billion a year consulting services. And so, and the question was also here, so what can we do with your tools? And one company said, like I said earlier, I mean, you must be able to do that. And so we sat down, and the result is basically BlueCallom Transform. It's not about transformation of the big things, not at all. It's transformation of the million small things. And we will show you how we do that. Now, there are coming another couple of problems that are all, as you see already now, enterprise-related. Compliance. Compliance is a big deal. And we have the same issues and the same questions. Well, can you do something meaningful, not as super expensive and flexible for all our cases? So we will do this end of March. We will start with the AI Act from the EU. And it will be actually an interesting, rather simple product that you can use in your entire organization. And this was also with the support of one of our teammates, our Our sales manager, Yannick, said once, you know, we had that problem. And it's not really the problem of understanding the compliance requirements. It's understanding the compliance requirements in the context of our daily work. And we all have to go to the compliance department with every new product, with every new update, with every change of the process. And maybe you can this can be used for everybody. And so that was a very quick trigger on my side that, yeah, this is actually what we need to do. Compliance for everybody in the company. So that every person who has a question about, is this compliant if I do this or if I do that, they need to type it in and the response need to come out immediately. Now, there's still somebody needing to be responsible and to say yes or no, but that is now relatively easy when that person knows how the compliance test was made and what the output said. They could say, yeah, it's probably okay, go for it, or too dangerous, or still too unclear, we need to dive deeper. And then only then these guys get into action, so to speak. And there's a product coming, Compete. That's a competition leadership strategy model. And you already see some of these products like Bank Zero don't even have a category because, I mean, competition, yeah, you get, again, a consulting company in, help you compete with some company, and then until you get to that point. But what is this in a year from now? You know, so we build tools that were impossible with conventional software, and that runs, like I said, on the upper corner, 24/7, 365. This is the way we go. Scale is yet another one. This is scaling sales, basically to get into the world of global players. And as you know, I built two of those companies very successfully. One is 65 billion in revenue right now, and the other is crossing the 3 billion number. So I have a little bit of experience in this. And so also here, this was only possible with consultants and with a lot of experts and a lot of sweat and blood until this actually works. And so we built basically a tool, an instrument to help scaling sales across the globe. And there are 10 other products like that that are coming. So I extended this discussion a little bit so that you get the scope of what we're doing. And the AI evolution in the enterprise is basically where we see 25, 26 and beyond. And so you see, I wouldn't even, you know, say, oh, this is 2030, because 2030 will be a different world. But 25 and 26, we can kind of comprehend. So we will have about 15 enterprise-grade solutions for the different areas. So scale for sales, disrupt for R&D, control will be another product for finance coming later this year. On the administration side, whether it's facilities, operations, or HR, mainly a version of Transform. And what I want to say here also is Transform is probably becoming the most versatile enterprise AI solution in our range, because you can already see like Flow is the logistics flow is very much logistics oriented. So the most are pretty specific, but Transform will be very versatile and probably also used in all the other departments. And what we are building, and mostly the core system is done, is sort of the headquarter engine, is BlueCallom, the core platform. It's Agentic Blue, and there is a product coming called Manage, and this is to manage everything. So enterprise AI management is basically what the underpinning system does. The solutions on top of, they are actual enterprise solutions. And one reason why we built that solution field is to show what the platform actually can do and to motivate also other to build products for sales and logistics and R&D and all the other parts. And if somebody comes with a better disrupt product, well, welcome, then put it on. We would not compete with any of our partners ever. I mean, that's a promise that I can do, and to make sure that it's maintained, we put it in the contracts. So this is, so to speak, secure. Okay, so let's go into a transform. Before I do that, are there any questions? I mean, if so, Stefania, I need your help because I don't see the.
Not at the moment, I would tell you.
Okay, cool. So what it is an intelligent productivity transformation. And the word intelligent flies around in very, very many ways in our business. And this is also something where we even architecturally embedded into the solutions. So transform, the story is basically that agentic AI is understood with two ends of the complexity model. So one is highly complex situations, and this is the transform is a perfect product to do that. But the other end, and this is what the initial version, so to speak, was actually built for, are little problems, millions of it sometimes. And in order to do that, we need, and this is interesting to understand, we need the human beings to tell the system what the problems are. It cannot solve it on its own. It cannot understand. I mean, it's not, it's intelligent, but it's not having this purpose-driven behavior. And there comes a new word into our world, this purpose. I mean, we do something usually, hopefully, with a purpose and not just randomly. I mean, I can randomly take this class and do this. I mean, but this is meaningless. There's no purpose why I do that other than demonstrating how random and how meaningless this is. So the purpose act is extremely complex when we ask people, what is the purpose of your life, or what is your purpose in life? Mostly have trouble articulating. Some have an answer, some are very quick, some are very philosophically and already thought about this many, many times. But still, when we ask a neuroscientist, where is the purpose center in our brain? There is no answer. We don't know. So as long as we don't even know what purpose is for us, it's very, very difficult to build a purpose engine. But that is what we would need if we would replace people in some or the other areas. And then we have very different other meanings in our constitution as a human that are all unsolved or unclear or even unknown that we do it. So the goal is that we want to take all these, in the initial case, the million little problems, and we would ask and interview people, what is their biggest problem? What is their time sink, where time just flows away? What are the productivity leaks where you say, I mean, I can do this very quickly, but because of this and this and this, it takes forever. I have to wait for an approval. I have to wait for somebody else to deliver certain things. And so Transform can interview basically every single employee in your company, important or not, everybody. And then there is one challenge that we have is understanding, is that person capable of articulating their answer to an AI so that an AI can take it and then make an assessment for thousands of employees? And the answer is no. So the biggest hurdle that I realized the industry has, also when they do interviews with teams, how can we improve and so on, that most of the feedback is not really, I mean, it's well meant, but it's really not very well used or usable. And so we developed a technique, we call this iterative prompt. So where the single prompt actually iterates with the interviewee in this case, trying to understand what that person really means. So the thing is a back and forth saying, okay, what's your problem in this area, or whatever the question is. And the answer comes back, the human answer comes back to the system. Then the system assesses the answer in the context of what the task is, and then comes back and says, in this context, is it that what you mean? And at least current tests show, in most of the cases, it's not. And so then the person can actually edit the response from the AI, and the AI, reviews again and does this maybe 2 or 3 times until the answer is good, and then it can work with it. So it's a little step, but it's of extreme significance for the result of this entire process. And this is what makes these interviews, these interview processes, makes these transformation projects so expensive. Because if you have somebody from these big consulting companies, even if they hire armies of students to do the interviews, I mean, it's a dialogue between human and human, to trying to understand if that other person in front of me, is that what it says really meaningful? Is it what I understood, or is it something else? And so I often use this analogy. Now our language is simply limited. We made an important decision about 8,000 to 12,000 years ago, when our language was formed, that we have to maintain that language at any price, because the language is our most powerful instrument. No biological being can tell another biological being, no matter how intelligent, what did the previous parents of that being do, and how would that inflect the future? Only we can do this, only humans. Only I can tell you what my grandfather did, and what my grandfather said, what his father did to him. And this is where the chain comes from, and this is where they see the future. So, but our language was so protected that this doesn't go out of sync, because this would be terrible, right? And it did already, because we have many, many languages, which is probably our biggest disaster, so to speak. But in any case, this protection comes to a point that we're not able to deal with anything of our modern society. I cannot tell you how piano sounds. You have to listen yourself. Isn't that bizarre? And this is a big part of Transform, actually, to make these interactions, not only in the interview, but in many other cases, possible, so that there's an understanding, a common understanding for solving problems. So when we look into Transform, then I have a little bit of flowchart here. So it starts with a human intent. And human intent is a big word. More than we may think right now, because our intent is the biggest driver for anything AI for probably a long time. Because as long as the human intent is coming from a system which we call consciousness and which we call purpose, we cannot rebuild that. So this is something that is completely hidden to our even understanding of life. But the human intent is the one that says, okay, we want to do this or that. And that human intent triggers an entire process. And if we formulate that intent well enough, an AI system can manage and even create this entire process. But it starts with this intent. So, and when we start Transform, we call these things flights, because we can start multiple flights with one plane, so to speak, with one Transform. The initial thing, what we do is we set up a team, and then we define that flight, and then we tell the flight what we actually want to do. friction, productivity leaks, over administrative processes, time sinks, whatever the issues are that we know, we tell the system these environmental data. This is who we are, and this is what we want to do, and this is the result we're expecting. And by that token, I mean, you probably all have played with 01 and 03 and the new systems, and maybe hopefully notice that prompts look different for 01 and 03 than it did for GPT-4, 3, 3.5, and all the previous versions. Because previously you made it very clear what the system should do. But with the Orion series coming in, that is not necessary anymore, because the intelligence has grown in these AI systems very significantly with the O systems. Intent is something that has not even a thought in it, because this comes still from a human. But when we say, I want you to help me in this environment, this is what we do and what we have, and I want you to actually create this outcome, then everything in between can actually be done by an AI system. So this fundamental understanding is also something that we use to build very rapidly these AI systems, even on an enterprise scale. Because the intent, to understand the intent, is the key for a system. And if the intent is, well, at the end of this process, we want all the little problems solved, no matter what it takes, then the key is that the intelligence of the system can actually understand the intent and can now look for the various aspects of those problems. And so what we did is we built, for instance, here in the middle under assessment, you see transform classes. So this is like sales and marketing and so on. We give them additional information. And so this class building process is something we do. So that the system, when you say this is sales, it understands sales, but it needs to understand the difference of the sales and the marketing in the context of the problem solution range. But it also can do, and this is done then at a later stage, build relationships when it sees solutions from various classes, because they come, if you say, well, the pricing is still not ready because I need the feedback from the CFO of our current, whatever currency exchange, and I can't do the euro price or the dollar price until I have that, and typically get it by today, but this time I didn't, and therefore, it's lacking. We can solve that problem easily, but some of these interconnected problems are not even communicated. So then there's an assessment process that assesses basically the situation of all the little problems, and it can even iterate through every problem, let's say 100 times. I mean, this is like 100 brainstorm meetings very precisely around a topic, and then looking for the most likely or the best solution. And as you know, you get on ChatGPT, you get it back in 10 seconds. So these brainstorm meetings with itself are relatively fast, even though you realize, and you will see it in the demo, it will take more time. And so we go through this entire process until the very end, where the solutions are already built. Now, this means if processes are basically stagnating, the most likely solution, this is what we realized also in our daily work, the most likely solution is actually giving people an agent and connect these agents with other agents across the enterprise to do process steps faster, easier, and more in context of the entire company. And these agents, they can be built by the system itself. So the solution isn't like, oh, you need to do this. And by the way, you also need to worry about that. We know that. I mean, this is no news. So what we expect from an AI is actually that it does the solution. So here's the function that you need to click, or here's the things that you need to do, and here's the result that comes out of that click that you do. Not that I need to think about how can I do it. And then the executive report is an obvious thing that shows the entire situation and the decisions and everything that was made. And also the anticipated productivity is already calculated because we can do that. So the consequence, and this is something that some people were kind of almost shocked that the interface is super trivial. It's still basically the prompt box. And this has to do with the structure of an AI. It needs to be prompted. It needs to be told what to do in certain stages. But the stages where it needs to be told is something that you decide, or you can decide, because we can say, okay, here should be a human interaction point. Here should be a human that is getting an email, hey, look at this and review that and give it a yes or no. But for the innovation process, we did this for the sake of finding out. We do the entire process, which is typically sort of a 6-month process at best, and has been typically a process of 5 years. We do this in 4 hours, the entire process without a human touch. I mean, just for the test of it. So every decision is made by the AI, every suggestion is reviewed by the AI, every needed additional input is done by the AI until it is basically completed with a go-to-market strategy that can be executed because it writes already the interaction with social media and all the marketing things.
So we have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first one is for Christian, is asking, why don't we use the 5 why methodology in the interview phase of Transform?
Why we don't use the 5 why?
Yeah, why don't we use the 5 why methodology? Yeah, during the interview phase of Transform.
Well, probably because I don't know about it, but maybe somebody in the team knows about it. But if this is a good thing to do, I mean, we're very super open for any kind of suggestion. I mean, we use in the disrupt, in the ideation process, we run 8 different methods to come to a solution. Whoever said that, I would love to hear more about it. But that's a super input. Thank you.
Great. The other one is how long it takes to prepare the custom model in Transform.
It takes roughly 3 to 5 minutes. Yeah. I mean, the creating the model, or basically it's the fine tuning in OpenAI language, is done by aggregating all the data. And typically you upload something and then you click the run button so that it actually creates the model. But this is done in our solution. It's done completely autonomously. So as soon as the data come in, and they're not aggregated and then uploaded, they're aggregated to a certain degree, uploaded, and then everything else is augmenting the model. And this runs in the background, but I mean the experience of running a model is about 5 to maximum 10 minutes, unless it's a super monster model, which is something people say probably not a good idea anyway. But if you have, let's say, 100, 500 pages or something like that of documents, that would take about. We tested our innovation framework. That's 100 pages, and it took 10 minutes. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So
Okay.
last question is it possible to adapt the executive report with adaptive language model systems, and how can you add new sources of information to change or update the reports?
Okay, so report updates is an interesting question. I mean, we are used to have reports based on data that are in any kind of system, and then we show them in charts, and we do the same thing. But we also realize that much of the data that we generate for executives or for managers running a project or whatever is to make educated decisions about what's going on. And the interesting future, I have to say that, is that this will most likely change. We will work in the future way more with true analytics rather than charts. The charts give us a couple of interesting things, and I show you in the process later on an interesting chart that we built. But the chart is actually relatively complex, and so it needs already sort of an explanation. And so these combinations is something we're working on, because when we deal with complexity, then the pie charts and the stack charts and so on are probably still an interesting thing, and we will not give up on those for a while. But this is probably not the future. Now, if things change in the world that we're touching, then they are changing, and this touches any kind of report. And every chart that we're creating and everything that we're reporting, everything is live, so to speak, real time. So we don't aggregate data once a day or once a month or something like that. Everything runs real time. I don't know whether this answered the question.
Gustavo, you can unmute yourself in case. So as a follow to this question, there was also, where do the uploaded data stay, where are stored?
Okay. So allow me to answer that question a little bit later. We go into the architecture of what's the underpinning of the system that we have. And then let me come back to this later. And should I forget, then please alert me.
Absolutely.
Is that okay? So let me show you real quick, and demos are typically not sort of the longest stretches. So I go into, I have to share this new tab. So I go basically into transform. This is an agent, but it's actually a multi-agent system. And so every of these major steps you see here. And so, like I said earlier, there's one field, and in this case, it's this field saying, okay, the company data is this, Mayor's Instruments is a modern blah, blah, blah company, and this is what we're doing, and we have so and so many employees here and there, and so forth and so forth. So then you have here the names and the email addresses of the people. In Disrupt, for instance, there are way more variables, so to speak, that you give to the system. But here's an interesting initial understanding of AI user interfaces. And this is basically on my previous slide. Or is the next slide? I don't know. So we have no fields anymore. And there was an argument about, yeah, but it's easier and better for us to complete fields than, just write it down so we may forget and so on. We obviously could do fields. I mean, one field after the other, like in thousands of or millions or actually all applications. The interesting thing about this, and this is a little bit of also a training of using AI, is we give the information that we have rather than the information that the system wants. If we give the information that we have, even if there are typos in, the system can deal with it. If we require information that we believe the system needs, like in the old world, then we would either do not a favor to the system, but definitely not to the people, because then they would worry that, I don't have this information, though, therefore I cannot start the process. And this is no longer true. The intelligence also of this part is amazing, and it can understand that this phone number actually is a zip code, or that name is not the name of the company, but the name of the person. All these things are understood by simply typing things in. And also when you explain what the company is, I mean, what we do here, and we do this in every application, we give obviously a template like this one. So people say, yeah, but in our company, this is all different. Our structure is different. Our departments have different names. Super, type it in, because the understanding of the system when it comes to company data equals to this, or is this, doesn't even need to be the equal sign or something like that. Then you type that in. If you say, okay, here's another important aspect, and you put that important aspect in, which is not part of a field construction, you can't, other than notes. But then if you put in notes, this is probably not part of the process. But here, the process is dynamically taking all these values and things and then can process it. And this is what makes a system like this also different from, okay, here's a prompt and I send it to ChatGPT. I mean, nothing against ChatGPT. I mean, it's the greatest thing in the world. But when the data volume becomes bigger and more complex, then we need to do more on the back end to tell the system what it needs to look for. And if there is an interesting aspect or some wording like that, then the system need to be intelligent enough to actually say, okay, so how would I use it? Possibly it comes back with a feedback and saying, okay, can you give me more of this information? So the future is less forms and less structure. Put it all in unstructured and or more or less unstructured, all the way to unstructured, and then we can run it. And so I hit the submit button, and now it processes these data. Already done. Okay, wonderful. If I like it, I can give it a rating, and you should. I give it 6 stars, and I tell you later on. Oops. Why does it do that? No, that's the Vorführ effect, the demo effect. Sorry about that. It should actually do that. So, and then it explains a little bit. Please describe in your own words most of the time-consuming issues and so on and so forth. What we do in this demo is we put this all into one interface, because otherwise we would have to have multiple people. So we put something in here, and then we say, okay, review the response, and we will take this input and come back and say, okay, more or less, this is the response I understand from what you told me what the problem is. It takes a little bit, does the assessment, and what it also does, it does the assessment in context of the task, and it comes back understanding. Hi, if I understand correctly, you do this and this and this and that. I click finish here. I don't edit it, but I could edit it. I could put in. You forgot an important point. I hate reporting. Something like that, and it will recognize it. So then I put the finish button, and so it took this now. Now the new understanding is you hate reporting, right? Yeah, that was it. And then I can go back and can review the next response. Now we moved from sales to marketing. And this process, again, this is demo process. So that even if you want to demo it internally or play with it internally, you can do this as a single person. But this would obviously, you would have gotten an email in the marketing department, and only this part would now be to be completed as you're part of the marketing department, and all the people with you, and the system, like you saw earlier in the settings, had multiple email addresses. So I'll do the same thing. I say finish. I don't even edit it. And now it comes back with the next department, which is the logistics department. And I do this now 5 times in total. And you see it moves forward. So this was the last one. So we have sales and marketing. Now it's working on the logistics part. And the next one that is coming is general administration. So we can already imagine now 05 is probably administration when I put a go for this one. So these things here can all run in parallel. I mean, here we have it sequentially because I want to show it, I want to demo it, and so on. But the invitation would go to all employees, to all the departments, whoever you want to invite, and they would do the same process. I just do it so that we have enough data in it to actually work with. So and now we're at the administration. So then the next one after administration is R&D. This is the last one in this demo. And then we get into the survey findings, and it finds out, okay, what's actually a finding based on these demo data, and it will tell a little things what needs to be done. And just looking at the time, yeah, it's relatively fast because it's doing not, it doesn't need to crunch through too many data. So Dino already alerted me. There's, for whatever reason, is the fonts of this one is different. We'll just jump over and let the last one, which is the R&D, run and review the response. Because this input, when it says your input, this is the actual response, and oops, that I am supposed to review. And so in the beginning, it says, please write an answer, and then task I find boring, and so on and so forth. So it guides me, even if I've never done anything like that. And it becomes the same responses. Now it's R&D related data analysis is an issue. Writing research summaries takes too long. Organizing research data takes too long. Identifying trends from the data. And even here, we're very, very patient with 45 minutes. Typically, this may be 2 days or something like that. So I finish again, and so from here it jumps now from the R&D survey to the survey findings, and I hit submit to run the findings. And this would be now in the real process, if I'm the project manager, if enough surveys are accumulated, and this is something we can decide in this beginning where we define all kinds of things, which we didn't here. Then we would say, okay, if let's say 500 survey responses are done, then we alert the team manager. And now I'm acting as the team manager, and it puts now the survey findings together for me. This takes a little bit longer, but also it's nice for having some time to explain it. All the aggregated data get now sort of assessed, and I get as the team manager, I would now get the information that, okay, here are the results. Now there are different types of requirements. My voice gets a little bit dry. Sorry. So you can say, okay, we have this survey for the next 10 days, and every employee who responds, and after 10 days, it's over. Then this is one thing. You can say, okay, we want at least 500 or 5,000 or whatever it is. And if we have it, it's over. You can also just combine that and say, okay, for the first 3 days, and then until 5,000 are there. There is a function that is called expiration. So a prompt that is sent out to people can expire. And so then if you come too late, well, sorry, you're too late. But let me try this again. I mean, I'm confused why this is. Okay, now it works. Okay. Maybe it was not enough data. Maybe I put it too early. Okay, so here are the survey findings, and it basically looks into the department, does a little summary. I mean, not an overwhelming report, because overwhelming reports are not really what we all like, but the key data. So in sales, we can save 25 hours per week. In marketing, 26.25. And you see these very much look like demo data from a table that was aggregated. Then the task, approximately hours. Now this is, for instance, sales, R&D. Here's sales and R&D, and these are organizational research, market research that multiple departments do. So there's this cross intersection already for what, where the problems are, and then there's a conclusion what Meyer instruments should do and potentially save over 100 hours a week. And a little bit of a disclaimer. So, okay, this sounds good, understand, but it's still not solved, right? So I say, okay, submit to generate a feasibility study. Now it looks actually, is this possible to be done with, with these data that we have? And the feasibility study should be a little bit faster now because it goes through all existing data. It doesn't need to go back into the past. Now, here's one thing that for the more technology-oriented people, for a few, all the information that are collected here in these different agents are actually stored. So there is a memory for that. And because these are all enterprise relevant data, we do have, or we do put almost everything into so-called long-term memory. And long-term memory is basically not just 3 months or so, but we store it right now indefinite. And if a company realizes, okay, this is going into terabytes, it's too expensive to even retrieve, then we can shrink, obviously, the data like everybody else does. So the feasibility of this is the key benefits, turnaround, selection after careful review of the top 5 most time-consuming path. Looks like this is all possible on the data side, on the market research, and on the organization research. We can write agent with the requirements that are here already mentioned. And we have a projected timeline of about 20 hours for all these activities. And so it looks like we can do this. And so we would simply say, hey, this is cool. If we can do it, then, go do it. And this is now, the next is the task list. So it basically produces a task list of all the analytics, of all the research, and of all the organizational research data, which means in the organizational research is basically what's in the organization that we know, and then how can we do the data analysis, and also the market research faster accordingly to that. By the way, you see here a stop button. I haven't talked to it before. You see it actually everywhere. So because the process can be, can be 8 hours, 10 hours, it can be a week, it can be 2 weeks. So in case we don't want to continue, we need to stop it. Otherwise it runs indefinitely. Again, a little bit for the technology people. As you know, the web is a stateless environment, meaning, okay, if you close it, it's gone. And this is a stateful application. So this is another thing. Not only the memory is something in an enterprise we have to consider, or in an organization with lots of people working on one application, but also the state. So everything that happened is in a state right now. And if the internet breaks down, maybe somebody killed the internet, old joke, then the state of whatever happened is still there. And if everything comes back, it comes back at that state. And this is why we needed to have a stop button, because the system doesn't know whether this is a 1 month process, a 6-month process, a year-long process, theoretically. I mean, we don't know. So if you don't want to continue, then you need to stop it. I'm just looking at the watch a little bit. I mean, it's the last one. I think we can handle this one. If I look real quick at the presentation after the demo, we will go into a couple of use cases, and I jump a little bit forward in order to overcome the time that it takes for working. We will talk about 3 use cases. So this right now is basically sort of the productivity use case. I mean, we want to get more productivity. We want to get all these little flaws and all these little productivity leaks and time sinks and friction. We want to get this out of the system. And okay, here we go. Thank you for being fast. So it now develops prompts, and with the prompts, it's not shown here, also develops basically Python code if Python code is needed for learning processes or API accesses and so forth. Which means, and this is, I mean, I would say strategically important. This system shows better than anything else probably that a good AI or enterprise AI solution is not only telling you here's a problem and you need to fix it, and maybe here's a suggestion to fix it. Because this would be not intelligent. This would be something like, I mean, honestly, everybody could do. It takes a little bit longer if a human does it, but this is not really an advantage. The advantage is when the output, and this is like also in the innovation system where we have the complete go-to-market strategy, including the content, the things that need to click on a button or autonomously go to LinkedIn and post it there and so on. And this is here obviously more complex because in order to fix these productivity issues, there need to be, AI behind. So it creates the AI that is needed to fix the problems. And so here are the efficiency gain inputs. So this is an efficiency gain input. Then an analysis for that. That's another prompt or agent. Then there's yet another one. It iterates through discussion for refinement. So in this case, this is a so-called human interaction point. So somebody does it, or it's already prepared here for, where we say, no, the actor is this, and it could be done by the AI itself. So, and then there's the tail. This is the end of the chain of agents. Finalize the efficiency gain plan, and basically then present it and say, okay, this is how we go forward with that. And this goes on and goes on. And so for every of these problems, I mean, this is a small one. Usually this little, I don't even know where you can see on the right-hand side, the cursor is very small and the list is extremely long. And this is also, I mean, sort of a little bit insight in how we work. This is how we build even these applications. We tell the system all the parameters that we need to build an application, and then the system built it for us. And this is why we can do enterprise applications basically within a month. So let me go back to the presentation mode, share this instead. So, and I went fast forward, use case search. So this is what we basically did. No, sorry, this is what we did. Our flight number 2525. So this is the future flight that many of you probably would go through if you say, well, this is what we want. We want to fix all these problems, and we go through, through the entire mess. And within a few days, including implementing the the prompts that it developed, you probably have the solution already for each and every desk. So there's another case. Go back to case 1. We call it flight 0815, 0815. This is probably the first AI application you should use, or if you're a business partner, then your customers, because the hunt for AI use cases, I mean, is on in almost every company. So people try to find out, where could we use AI to improve our business, and they do it manually. I mean, stop. We're talking about AI. So use AI and transform in this version is actually best. It has the same organizational structure, the same flow chart. The inner workings are a little bit different. The flight definition is a little bit different. And this is why I said earlier, it's probably the most versatile agent or solution that it's a multi-agent solution that we developed, because it can be done in all these kind of problem-solving aspects. So here, the flight definition would be, help us identify important AI use cases that amplifies our business, that reduces cost, that makes us faster, that finds problems, whatever it is. The outcome may be transform in the use case number 2. So this is something where companies easily can, number 1, experience AI. They can find out where the issues are that they could possibly solve. It will show how the problems get actually solved. It will build, I mean, the solution builder is part of it. It will build probably prompts and agents for you, so that you can say, okay, now can run with this first couple of use cases. Number 2, I mentioned already, productivity leaks. Number 3 is shadow AI. I have another slide about shadow AI, and in the interest of time, I switch this, or I go fast forward. How and what shadow AI really is. It's one of these terms that goes around. I mean, we worked with this problem since the beginning, but we didn't know there's a name, so there's now a name. Now, let's look at the constitution. How would this feel within an organization? Who would use it, and what would they use it for? So probably the CEO, CFO, COO, one of these people would probably want to understand transformation objectives. They want to possibly say, Ben, you shouldn't do this, or you should do that. We want to understand the impact on financing and what it costs, and sustainable transformation. So when I say sustainable transformation, I have to say this made me really happy when talking to people, that CEOs who were probably, back in my days, relatively agnostic to, well, if we have to let people let go, then we let them go, because it could risk the whole company. But today it's a little bit different, and there's a lot of CEOs that say, I mean, if we really have to, well, before we close down the company and we lose all the jobs, yeah, we have to let go people. But this is sort of the last exit. And so this is also something that the system can actually do. It can, and this is what we suggest to do always, it can find alternative applications or alternative tasks for people that are just too many in one department, to build new business units or to build new opportunities for new businesses for the same company. And the nice thing, it even looks for business opportunities that you could follow. So, and we did this for one company, and this was the first where the board said, no employee will let go. So you have to figure it out. And initially I thought, God, this is a service organization. I mean, how can we reduce cost in a dramatic way they wanted it, and not lose employees, which is the biggest cost item in a service organization? But yeah, we found out there is a lot of opportunities for that company. And so not every person was ideal for this new task. So it was a little bit of back and forth, including finally writing an agent for finding out which of the teammates are actually good for this new task and which we should have we should keep in the old tasks. Interestingly enough, which turned out after we heard later on that there was almost a surge to this new task. So it was, in this case, it was actually very easy. Then the department leaders play a role because they're needing to do the strategic alignment with actually what's going on in the transformation, needing to help set goals and objectives, team composition, the journey moderation. How are we? And I mean, this is still a management job. And interestingly enough, is when you watch what's actually going on, the employees become managers. They don't manage people, they manage agents. And so this is why the transformation process also almost collapse in time compared to the past. And then the teams in themselves, they are basically moderating the process itself. I mean, they're the process. They look for opportunity discoveries. They look for engagement. They build maybe the MVP based on the physical output of a blueprint. They look at the market processes, but also look at what basically the transformation output has shown to them. And then they review it, like you see how reviews get done, and then they can put it in execution. So a transformation like this would have taken 5 years in bigger organizations. It's probably possible within a month or two. There's no reason why it should be longer because everything is prepared. I mean, the AI runs through this very diligently and fast. And I mean, it may and may not be that things go not as suggested or as expected. Well, this can be fixed, but also there you have an AI system that can fix it. And don't expect that this is a smooth operation that you click the button, you confirm, and then the output comes, you implement it and tell the people now you can use that. It's not quite that, but it's definitely not a year or so. There's still work underway. And I mean, our brain is still needed, even though the AI is a cool thing. So with that said, let me jump real quick to the AI management, and I can do this according to the list I've seen pretty quickly. So our tech stack is OpenAI right now. We have interface capabilities to other systems. We run a DeepSeek system, for instance. We run it locally on our server. So if somebody has just don't want to have an LLM run somewhere else, this is definitely an option. But we have to discuss when and where it is an option and when and where not. And on top of the API to the GPT and LLM system, everything else on top is basically BlueCallom. There is the system and data layer. There is a multi-tenant design, so which has multiple company have this, multiple times for themselves. There's an agent solution processor, KPIs, management, and all these kind of functions. And obviously, we can talk to an API to your data. Typically, in between us and theirs, obviously, there's a data lake where you say these are the data you can use. These other data are just a no-go, and we need to fill whatever is needed. And when I say the data that we can use, it's actually the data that your team can use by working with it. So we don't play with your data at all. We can't even access your data. Everything is obviously it's encrypted, and so that's pretty safe. A quick look into the agentic AI framework. And by the way, next week we have a boot camp. So if somebody wants to go really deep into what we do and how we do it and how this works, these are all the agents, for instance, they run on a agentic spine. We call this because we looked at how neurons actually cooperate and collaborate. And so we find a couple of very interesting things, how synapses actually open and close connections to neurons. And so this whole thing is more a neuroscience driven than a technology driven part. We don't use an orchestrator. You have maybe heard this term, which is a good thing to do, but we follow this concept of a agentic spine, where we can actually connect everything with everything. And the agentic spine has sort of a control mechanism that is very limited in relative to an orchestrator, because then it would be limited to the orchestrator. We put intelligence into the agents, and also characteristics into the agents. We looked into how DNA works, so they have their DNA, and the agentic spine is actually just a flow and control mechanism all the way down to the memory, to the state, to function calls, to APIs, and so forth. Manage is then the management dashboard for the executives, and this is what I mentioned earlier. So here, for instance, this is one of many charts, but this is one of the charts. So it shows the overall usage. So how often is it used? So this one is obviously the king here of the road. Then on the y-axis we have the productivity. So very productive, big. Here's also an outlier. Interestingly, this was red. It must have been improved because it's now no longer red in this chart. And the color basically shows the stars. So the valuation users are doing, like I did where I failed in the first one. And so from the management point of view, they see all the agents and even the prompts that are running. The prompts are little tiny dots floating around here everywhere. But the agents and the multi-agent systems, or basically all the agents are today multi-agents, but it's smaller. They see, yep, they're used. There's not so much use. Here's the 5-star. This is used, but maybe not as often. Maybe it's just the case because it's has a special function. Maybe it should be promoted. Also, the productivity in this case is very high, and so people could say, okay, this is a high performer from the productivity point of view, is used quite often, not as often as this one. Still tiny, so it's probably one of these shooting stars, so can make assessments of it. This is how it looks like, and this goes back to the architecture. So these are all users, or possibly even business partners. So you can extend, and we call this induced productivity. You can extend your productivity power that you develop with your AI system and your AI network into other organizations. And when we go to shadow AI, the problem is that so many people are actually doing their prompts in ChatGPT, which is, I think it was the greatest thing to do. Instead of blocking it, everybody could. But now there's a thing rising that concerns people, and I would say rightfully. They have no idea what the productivity is across the enterprise. They have no idea how many people are actually using it, how many people should use it. They don't know who developed these prompts, where they're coming from. Do they expose possibly a risk, either by asking questions and training a model in a way that it shouldn't? I mean, there's a lot of questions, and so this orchestration here, this is basically BlueCallom. So this is our cloud point, but all the users are using the same interface that we showed you, working on processing it in the departments. I mean, at least virtually, and everything runs out of a data center, data lakes, and security. So with that, in each of these organizations or departments are basically libraries, and people pull their agent and their prompts and their solutions from these libraries. So a company has literally everything under control. And the more open these libraries are, the more widespread they get. If people think this is too much, then they can reduce it. And there are certain departments have certain libraries. I mean, this is completely flexible, but it allows a wide spread of applications. And a word to shadow AI real quick. I promise that prompts and agents floating in the enterprise. I mean, like there's no tomorrow. There's a company we're actually working with. They estimate about 100,000 prompts, and they estimate about 1,000 authors who developed these prompts. But nobody knows. I mean, how far did it already reach? Also into other country organizations and so on. So they want to pull it together, but they don't want to restrict it. And that's actually, a really good decision. So what we're doing is we're taking as soon and as much as we can prompts in, convert them into so-called blue prompts so that they can be measured, they can be managed, they can be located, they can be accessible, and so on and so forth, and basically then show up in these reports that I showed you before. And this is the way I believe to go to mission critical with AI, because as long as it's floating around, it's unmanageable, it's unmeasurable, and therefore, it doesn't really play a role in any kind of data structure. So implementation, just real quick. So what we typically do is do a 90-minute intro with the company. Then they can have a trial, like a pre-contained demo to see how this actually feels when they use it themselves. Then there is a hypothetical launch. This is also an AI-guided plan, so that they see how they would launch it. What would it take? Do we need training? Do we need to train employees to use it? How would we bring it into the company, and so forth and so forth? And then there's the decision to actually go or no go, or make adjustments. And typically there are adjustments. I mean, so far everybody needed some tweaks, and this is not, a multi-million-dollar customization like even I did before with in many projects, but this can be done within a week or maybe 2 weeks. I mean, that's depending on the extent of where they go. So now, last but not least, and I know I'm over time, and I think this is my last slide: AI implementation strategy. We understand there's been millions spent on AI strategies already in almost every larger organization. I also understand this didn't really come through. And I also understand that most companies did their in-house application. And like in every industry, there is this make or buy phase where people consider, well, do we want to become hyper experts in AI solution building, or is our core competency building cars, making chemistry, making medicine, and whatever it is? And so those who were over the hump, so to speak, would say, no, I mean, enough of self-building. Stuff that you guys built is something we could never build our own. And so we help them implement basically not only a product, but also a strategy for using it. And that's the implementation strategy that we offer together with our business partners. And with that said, I think I need to skip the recap, which is typically done. I repeat everything that we did. And like Stefania said, there's a couple events coming up. One is a partner meeting in April. There is the AI and Cloud Summit exhibition in Düsseldorf. I would really invite you all to come. It's probably a very cool event. And then there's another one where we possibly be is in June in Paris.
Yes, also
give it back to Stefania.
Yes, and I just want to say like two things. One is that we're going to release also the next webinar this week, probably very likely today. So stay tuned on our social networks and website. There you find all the updates and next events. And related to Düsseldorf, if someone is planning to go, please reach out to us, because we have a discount on tickets for our partners and clients. And friends, of course. Yeah. As for the questions, they were all answered basically. There's just one from Gustavo that was related to the report. There's just one small part was not answered. He was asking if it is possible to adapt the reports with adaptive language model systems.
Okay, I have to be honest with you. I need to check that. I don't know. I mean, we do a lot, and we do a lot with different types of models and systems. So it's not really only just OpenAI, but let me get back to you, Gustavo.
I unmute all of you. If someone wants to say something, you just have to unmute yourself now. So you have the right to unmute yourself in case you have questions or final thoughts.
Yeah, I believe there was one question that because of the time pressure I had, I didn't quite answer when I said, you know, I do this when we're talking about the architecture, but I don't remember the
It
question.
was about the data, where the data are stored.
Yeah. I think I touched it a little bit. So
Yes.
the data are residing in in the cloud on our servers. I mean, on ours, it's actually Google's or Hetzner's, or maybe in the future also other servers. And the data are basically the data that, like I said earlier, that you bring or upload to us, or allow us to access via an interface. And in between, the data are basically typically in a data lake, where you say, here's all the data you can play with, which I said, it's actually you who play with the data through our system. We don't have access to customer data. It's all protected, it's encrypted. We're using Oracle Enterprise Database, so it's probably the best we can do. So when you want to have data exclusively locally and a large language model exclusively locally, that would be possible with open source tools. I mean, probably the most noisy is DeepSeek. It was the easiest. I mean, we installed it within minutes, more or less. So you could do this too. But this is something we would need to discuss, because in the discussion we had already with companies where we said, no, I mean, it's technology. We can do almost anything with it. But if it's practical, and if the risk that you try to avoid is big enough to go through the hassle, that's a big question that only you can answer. But we can definitely assist you on that.
Mike Grom is asking, related to the bootcamp, is if there is a plan to go into more detail about working with individual applications. And because it would be very important to be able to constructively play with and test the applications ourselves.
Sorry, I couldn't test with what? With?
The applications, the solutions during the bootcamp. Is asking if it will be actually hands-on development.
Oh, yeah. So we go through both transform and disrupt, hands-on. 50% of the boot camp is hands-on. And this is a good point. Everybody who is here and coming to the boot camp, please, you have to have a GPT Blue account. I mean, you have to be on the platform. If not, you can't do anything. And if you say, I don't care about hands-on, then I'm sure it would be a waste of time for you. And also, when you have already, then please create a prompt, at least one or two or three, to get a bit of familiarity with the way how prompts are created. On the left-hand side, there are these prompt objects. So use them, and even if you struggle, give us a call, and we can help you there.
Okay. One last one from Mike Grom is they already received questions related to the solution, how basically the data from the ERP systems are processed through the solutions. So he's asking if this will be also a topic in the bootcamp, data process.
How data come into the solution? Is that the question, or?
The question is if this the data topic is also part of the bootcamp. It's a topic for the bootcamp as well.
It's definitely a topic, but obviously we don't have access to any kind of ERP system that we could show how it works. But we could talk to it. I mean, we basically know how it works, and it's always a question of data accessibility. I mean, it goes through APIs. That's the key. I mean, it doesn't go through upload or something like that, even though you could do that, but that would be probably a very painful process.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, for the moment, I don't have any more questions. Is there anyone who wants to say something? Otherwise, I guess we can end it here. Okay.
Okay. Super. At least from my side, thank you so much for joining, and also for the activities and questions and so on you raised. I hope it helped a little bit. And I warn you, we will have a webinar like this, maybe not all from me, but like this, probably monthly for the rest of the year. We're coming up with new products, like I showed you, every month. And so it will be a busy season, because particularly what we are already seeing going forward. I mean, we get very powerful tools also from OpenAI. They announced yesterday their development toolkit, their SDK. We looked at it already. It's really a good thing. It helps us a lot, getting even more things done faster. So speed is probably the #1 word in this industry, and we can't wait, and nobody's waiting for us. So we need to go fast. Thank you.
Thank you very much.